What options do you think the NFL had with Calvin Ridley, Ross?
Not many, Dan. I mean, it's something that they talk about often, even back when I played, when it wasn't legal in the United States to bet on NFL games. It's all over the locker room. I mean, both in the stadium and at the practice facility. One of the first things they tell you at the start of training camp every year, they are very clear that you can, not only can you not bet on NFL games, you can't be associated with people that bet on NFL games. They know that you can't be giving your buddies tips and things like that. I think they had to suspend him for a year. I think they did the right thing.
But can you see? I'm trying to see his side of things. So when he does his appeal, and I guess he's got 3 days to do that, is there any wiggle room, do you think, for him to say, look, I wasn't playing. I didn't go to a bookie. I didn't bet against my team. I only bet $1,500. I wasn't trying to hide. Can you see the commissioner listening to this going, okay, I'm going to change your suspension?
You know what's interesting about that, Dan? It seems like over the years that if you're honest with Goodell, that goes a long way with him. Now, I got to be honest with you, I'm not sure who exactly hears the appeal. So I'd be curious to see who that is. If it does go to the commissioner because it's discipline, it would go to Goodell. And if people are just open with him and forthright, that does seem to give him a little bit of leniency. I just think with the explosion of legalized sports betting in the United States, it's going to be tough for them to reduce this punishment. I think that they feel like they need to send a very strong message to the other 2,000 NFL players.
Gambling come up when you play?
You know what's funny, Dan? The only 2 times it ever came up were my first game in college and my last game in the NFL, if you can believe that. I'll never forget, Dan, I'm 18 years old. I'm playing for Princeton. We're playing Cornell. I'm a freshman. It's the season opener. I'm on the punt team and the field goal extra point team. And I don't know why, but maybe it's probably for the Wall Street guys. But back then they would have the Ivy League lines would be in the newspaper. And this is 1997. My dad calls me that week, Dan, and he says, hey, Ross, if I give you a signal in the fourth quarter, let Cornell block the punt. And obviously he was joking, but it was kind of crazy to think I'm 18. I just had the prom 3 months ago, and there are people actually wagering money on this. Like, what if I tripped or missed this block? It was kind of an eye-opening thing. My dad was joking, but it was still funny. And then the last one, Dan, is unbelievable. My career ended with a neck injury against the Ravens for Washington in 2007. So I'm on injured reserve, okay, which means you get paid for the whole year. But I knew I was retiring. I knew I had herniated disc in my neck and bruised my spinal cord. I knew I was done. So I didn't go to any games or anything, but you get paid. So picture this, Dan. It's week 17, last week of the regular season. My wife and I and all my high school buddies, we go to my one buddy's house in Charleston, South Carolina. It's New Year's Eve. We're going to have a big night. And the Cowboys are playing Washington. If Washington wins, they make the playoffs. If they lose, they're out. So if Washington wins, I get $18,000. So it's about 30 minutes until the game starts. And I tell my buddies, and now remember, I'm from Reading, Pennsylvania. I tell my buddies, hey, if Washington wins, I get $18,000. 3 of them pick up their phone. They're like, let me call my bookie. You got to put $9,000 on the Cowboys right now. You got to hedge. You got to put $9,000 on the Cowboys. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. That's illegal. I'm not doing that. I will say this, though, Dan. Watching a football game where you have $18,000 riding on it, having beers with your buddies, I have never been more into a football game in my whole life. I mean, it was unbelievable. Washington won. We made the playoffs. I knew I was getting the 18 grand. I paid for everything that night for New Year's Eve. It was epic.